G'day, my name is Joel Rasmussen for Southern Cross Combat, and ahead of his appearance on Dana White's Contender series, I'm talking to Mr. Cody Haddon. Cody, thank you very much for the time. How are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm sorry you're staring directly into the sun as we speak right now.
That's all right. It's all good. Once we turn right, then it's gonna go to another location, so all good.
All right, thank God. I will say before we get into the meat of the interview, this is very strange for me, Cody. I've only ever interviewed you in person. Having you through the Zoom machine, it's very odd for me.
Yeah, I prefer to do them in person. It's a bit better, I guess. But yeah, I mean, unless you're gonna fly all the way over here,
Well, I mean,
then
I'll be in town for UFC, but you'll
I,
probably be gone by then.
I will. Yeah, I won't be here, unfortunately.
I was gonna
Yeah.
bring that up at the end, but we'll talk about it now since we're talking about it. It's like, yeah, the UFC is literally coming to your town and they're flying you to Vegas.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because the last time, sorry, not last time, the time before the last time, when the UFC, when Israel debuted, in Perth, I was actually in California at the time as well. A lot of my friends, and family went to that event, and then I had to watch it on like pay-per-view or whatever it was. I don't know if it was pay-per-view or a fight. No, I'm pretty sure it was a pay-per-view. Um, yeah, and I'd watched that in California. And then yeah, I remember people being like, "Oh, what's Perth like?" And I'm like, "Oh, there's not much to see, and like it's like pretty boring compared to the States. There's a lot going on in the States, whereas Perth's quite small. I love Perth, but it's very small, and there's like not much to do and stuff like that." And then when they were zooming the camera like over the city and like the ocean and like Fremantle and Perth City with the Swan River running through there and all that, they were like, "Wow, it's so beautiful, man!" Like, and they were blown away by it. So, yeah, that's won't be my first time like not being here when a Perth card is coming. So, yeah, it's a shame because I like to go and watch. That's for sure. I mean, hopefully next time it comes here, I'm on it. So that would be epic.
I was just about to say that, and I'm sure the bummerness, the sadness of not being there is offset by being on Contender Series. I'm sure it's a fair trade.
Yeah, 100%. Contender series is way more important, than just going to spectate, like an event, So yeah, I'm not really too bummed. But yeah,
Talking about being on Contender Series, I know it's to everyone else it's fresh and new. We've known the opponent just dropped, but you've known obviously for longer. How is it feeling now that it's getting closer and maybe the excitement of the announcement has worn off and it's getting more real?
yeah. I mean, it's a lot more. I've like you said, I've known about the opponent for a while. Vice versa, he's obviously known about me. Um, yeah, I mean, now there's a lot of hype, I guess, on both ends. People hyping me up, people hyping him up. They make a big production out of it, this and that. But yeah, nothing really changes, man. To be honest, at the end of the day, it's just another fight. Um, Two good fighters are going to go in there and just fight their hearts out to get a contract. So yeah, it's a lot of the other stuff I try not to pay attention to it too much because it's all irrelevant. At the end of the day, whatever's in the media or out there is like it's not going to change the way you fight or how the fight's going to go. It's already set in stone, and you're going to go out there and you're both going to fight. So all the media and stuff, it just doesn't really. It's cool, like they're hyping it up, which is awesome. They have to. It's a promotion, you have to sell it. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, that's just all irrelevant, really. At the end of the day, it's just two people going to go and fight. So yeah.
You're fighting Billy Brand. Prior to this, did you know who he was at all?
Nah, not at all. Nah, had no idea. Never seen him before. Um, yeah, I don't really like outside of training and stuff. I don't really watch much fights, to be honest. Um, I watch, obviously, I follow the UFC and stuff, but anything kind of regional, unless it's like Australian fights, like as in Eternal or Hex, or beat down some of these promotions that I tune in for them. But yeah, outside of that. like I watch ONE FC every now and then. Because when I've got like friends or someone fighting on there, I'll tune into that. Or when it's free on YouTube. But like regional around the world, I don't really pay attention to it too much. So no, I had no idea who he was. Until they matched me up against him, and then had a little look, and yeah, now I know who he is.
I was gonna say I would assume not. I know it's probably too in the weeds to be caring about American regionals. Uh, so when they offered you the Dana White Contender Series spot, do they sign you to the season and then give you an opponent, or when they offered you, was he the name?
Yeah, they offered me. They said, "Does he want to fight on this day against this fighter on Dana White Contender Series?" So like all in one, and just said yes. And then later on, came to my house and told me, "You're on the Contender Series fighting this guy." And I'm like, "Sweet."
So didn't even get any saying it. You are doing this.
Well, yeah, it's like I'd fight anyone at that level, you know. It's like it's literally the UFC. So what are you gonna say? Oh, I want to fight on the Contender Series, but oh, I don't want to fight that guy. You know, they'll be like, "Fuck off, then. Why are you here?" You know. So yeah, it doesn't matter who they put in front of me. I'm gonna say yes. You know, this is like the pinnacle of fighting at the highest level. So you know, obviously the UFC is, and this is one way into it. I would even argue some of the fights you have probably on the contenders to be harder than some of the fights in the UFC because everyone's like you, hungry, and you're literally going to go and fight your twin in another country essentially. So everyone's really good who's on there. They haven't been selected uh otherwise. So yeah, it's a non-negotiable, man. Like anyone they put in front of me, I'll say yes.
You just mentioned it there. You know, they try to stack that up to have two of the best regional guys going against each other. Since signing the fight and doing whatever research you've done on Billy, what do you make of him? And you said you're essentially fighting your twin. Do you think he stacks up against you?
Yeah, he's a good fighter. Really good stand-up, like Muay Thai background. Throws bombs. Had a good fight with Peyton Talbot. Tough as, yeah, durable. He deserves to also be there, you know. So it will be a good fight. You know, he's relentless. I'm relentless. It's going to be a war, I think. And yeah, I'm ready for that. You know, this is like I wouldn't want it any other way. You know, this is the highest level, and I've trained my whole life to test myself against the best fighters in the world, and I'm just grateful that I've been given the opportunity to do that. So yeah, I can't wait to go in there and test my skills against potentially another really really good fighter.
You mentioned just there, you've kind of trained your whole life for this. That's something we've spoken about before. And if anyone knows your story, they know that you got into combat sports at such a young age. We talked about before the interim title fight, I believe. We talked about how does it feel, and you mentioned like, well, it's just an interim title. And then when you fought for the undisputed title, you were like, feels okay. This is kind of it. You know, you said it. This is the way into the company. This is what you've been working for. How is that feeling to be here, literally on the doorstep?
Yeah, I was excited. Like when I found out, I was super excited, and I felt like I'd won the lottery. Like I literally felt like I've made it. That's it. Like and I I was like super excited, and that's all I could think about. Then as it's getting closer, I don't no longer feel like that because I'm like, hang on, you're not actually in. You need to run through this guy, and you need to put out a statement. You don't need to just win. You need to win spectacularly to get in. So now the focus is not as much excitement. It's more like I have a job to do, and this is the task at hand. And I'm not really thinking about all the other stuff. I'm mainly just thinking about getting through Billy Brand. That's it. Like regardless if it was on the Contender Series, if it was on a local show somewhere down the road, doesn't matter. The only thing I'm thinking about is getting through him, and like not really looking past that. And yeah, so for me, it just feels like another fight, and it's the opponent that I'm focused on getting past, and like preparing myself as best as I can to be able to do that. Yeah, of course it's cool that it's on the Dana White Contender Series, but I have to pull back my excitement a little bit because obviously I have a job to do.
You mentioned talking about that excitement that you felt, as well as you mentioned your manager, the great Jasmine Frank, came to your house to tell you. After you found out, who was the first person you told?
Uh, Shit, I actually don't know. Who did I tell? Um, I kept it quiet from everyone actually for a couple days. Um, and my missus at the time, she was in Bali, so I didn't tell her for like the first 2 days, and then I just spoke to Jazz like because I wasn't allowed to tell anyone, you know. And I was like, yeah, look, can I tell Zoe? You know, like because I'm living with her, like you know, it's my partner. Like, how can I not tell her? So I think she was the first person I actually told. But obviously, Jazz went and told Ramel, my coach. He needs to know, you know, stuff like that. But then, yeah, we kept everything else quiet. I think she was the first person, and then that I personally told, and then after that, once there was, you know, a few leaks and stuff like that, I had to keep everything like quiet, but like real close family. Like I told one of my real close family members, and then yeah, like I told my mum, and then that was it. And I just said like, yeah, obviously everything there was already leaks in the media and the UFC had already leaked it. So I didn't want her to find out I didn't want her to find out via like seeing a leak online and then she asked her son, hey, is this true? The UFC have added you to their roster and your name's on their website and all this. And I'm like, oh no, it's not true. You know, how can I lie to my mom? So as this was all going down, I had to go tell her. So that was like the second person I told. And then I didn't really tell anyone else until it actually came out. You know, I just kept it under wraps. Yeah.
What was Zoe's reaction when you told her?
Yeah, she just started crying. And then she was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it! Like, how? Like, what? Oh my God!" Like, yeah. And even now, if I go and like see my mum, they're probably still crying. So, anytime I talk about it, my family is still crying. You have to think like when someone's been training not for 10 years, but literally 20 to do this, and then the like that's all I've ever wanted to do, and then 20 years of work, and then not knowing as well if you're ever going to get an opportunity. It's like some people are great fighters on the local scene and they never seem to just get an opportunity to do something like that. So it's sad. They could train their whole life and not even get an opportunity. I'm grateful that my whole life's work is like I'm gonna be able to put it to the test on the biggest stage and be able to test my skills and see if I deserve to be there. I'm grateful for that opportunity. So the way they see it is like yeah, whole life's work, and I'm just very lucky to be given the opportunity to be able to display my skill set, which I've worked so hard for. So you can imagine how emotional they'll be towards that when all this kid's wanted to do since a young age is like be fighting in the UFC and been a reputable fighter and someone who is really going for it in combat sports. So yeah, to be honest, I've been doing this stuff for free for so long. I'm excited to start actually getting paid some good money for it. So yeah, I want to be able to have a life, set up a family and do all this sort of stuff and buy my own house one day. And I feel like this is my ticket to do all those things. So, which I've been working so hard for. So yeah, it's they're pretty emotional about it. But yeah, I mean, high stakes as well when competing on the Contender Series is a lot on the line for me. But that's okay. I'm happy to have that pressure put on me. Like I've always had pressure put on me, or people have always. All my fights have been, because it's like this kid's been training his whole life, so it's like you don't want that to go to waste. So there's always a lot of pressure, but it never makes me not perform. Every time like it's high stakes, I always pull it out. So no matter the pressure, the situation on the night, I will always show up and I'll always be the best version of myself.
How do you keep calm under that pressure? And, as you said, it's very high stakes. This represents a lot of fantastic opportunities. How do you kind of stay grounded and stay locked in?
I think it's a bit of like, the nerves as well. The nerves preparing you for like something intense as, and just being at peace with that, with the nerves and the chaos. I said, like, it comes from obviously competed a lot, and the nerves never go away. People will say, oh, I don't really get nervous. For me, the nerves are always there. You just become like better at dealing with them through like experience. So I've had a lot of experience in combat sports, and yeah, you just, at the end of the day, before I walk before like I actually walk out and go to fight, you got so much shit coming in and out of your mind, and you're just trying to slow your mind down. And I just think, before I walk out, I just think, oh well, fuck it. And that's what gets me over the line. I just go, fuck it. Let's see what happens, and just bite down and throw. Like, fuck it. That's my mentality. I'm trying not to be too complicated. That's the last thing I say to myself before the bell rings, and then I just go for it. So yeah.
The last time you made the walk to the cage, I was very fortunate enough to be there. I spoke to you afterwards. You talked about an injury you had sustained. How are you with that injury? How's the knee?
Oh, the knee's fine now. Yeah, the 100%. The injury's gone. I'm back to like full health. Have been for a while. Been wrestling, been grappling, been doing all of that. Which the last camp, all I did was like bag work and hit pads, and then do some boxing sparring. That's all I could do. Couldn't do any grappling. Couldn't even bend my leg, full range. So, um, yeah, there's none of that this time. I'm able to prepare properly, and grapple, and wrestle a lot, and do everything else on top of that. Been doing some good training with a couple good training partners and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm preparing really well, and my camp's going great. Touch wood, have no major injuries right now, and yeah, I'm feeling really good.
If not to validate that point even further, people on your Instagram saw you bust out the back handspring the other day. Uh, do you do gymnastics prior to all this? How do you just bust out the back handspring?
Oh, when I was a kid, I was just like obsessed with, like, I don't know, being able to do front flips, back flips, handstands, like climbing shit, jumping off high, like buildings and stuff, and landing, like, just, I don't know. So I guess it's just muscle memory now. Is like I've practiced it so many times just fucking around as a kid, I can still pull them out. So yeah, I like gymnastics and stuff. So I feel like as a fighter you have to have, like, you know phenomenal control over your body and body awareness, and being able to just do a backflip kind of represents that. So I always wanted to be able to do like the most spectacular things that a human can do. So that was something that I practiced a lot when I was younger.
You mentioned just before about some of the training partners you're getting this camp. We saw photos of you training with Mr. Steven Erceg. How was it to share a man you previously shared the cage with to now train with?
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Steve's such a good guy, such a high level fighter. In my opinion, he's best in the world, if not second best, after that war he had with Pantoja. So yeah, being able to just drive 20 minutes or 30 minutes down the road, and then literally fight with the best guy, or if not the second best guy in the world, is amazing. So the preparation with him has been phenomenal. We've been doing good rounds with each other, learning a lot from each other. And yeah, we're going to keep this up every single week. We spar every single week leading up to the fight. And I couldn't have a better training partner to get me ready for like the biggest fight of my life. So yeah, and he's preparing too for his fight. And we're fighting at similar times. So we're both in camp, both like revving everything up at the same time. So it just makes sense.
You said it there yourself, arguably the number one or number two guy in the world. Obviously, the level you get at Luistro is incredibly high level, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But when you do get in there to train with the guy who is like recognized, what is that like when you step in and you're going against someone who is like recognized as number one?
Yeah, it's funny. I just it's like I just see him as like Steve, like I like obviously we've fought before, and he's a fellow fighter from Perth, and he's just been lucky enough to be given that opportunity to show his skill set on that big stage, and he's always been capable of that. And his skills have always been this good. It's just he's been given that opportunity. So for me, I just see it as, oh, it's just Steve. Yeah, I go spar with him all the time. It's just like another guy, it's like not that big of a deal. But when you draw back and think about it, you're like, yeah, it is quite a big deal. But I just see it as like another fighter from Perth, like just trying to make their way in the sport. So I kind of don't get starstruck by it. It's like, yeah, I've fought the guy, we trained together quite a bit. It's just not, I don't get starstruck by it. It's like, yeah, it's great we're training with each other, and it's just good to have a good training partner my size. Another guy that I am actually training with a lot is Mini T, Daniel Williams. So we've actually fought each other too. It was my first amateur fight. We fought each other in MMA. He's now fighting on ONE FC at like the highest level, really. And yeah, he has came in and helping me out with this camp. He's actually going to come over and corner me as well for this fight. So he's really helping me out, and he has very strong Muay Thai style, which is very good for the opponent that I'm preparing for. So he's been there for me also, doing runs with Steve and him. I couldn't have two better training partners, and it just goes to show like the level that of combat sports that actually is in here in Perth. So we're very talented for like such an isolated city. We produce some of the best fighters in the world, and I hope to be one of those next fighters.
How long have you been training with Steve and Mini T?
Pretty much after me and Steve fought, things happened pretty quickly. We weren't going to rematch because the rematch would have been at flyweight, and I had no interest of going to flyweight. And obviously, for him to fight again at bantamweight didn't make any sense. So it was like there was no reason why we wouldn't train with each other. So I don't know. I think it was probably like a year after we fought each other, I think we started training together again. I took a bit of time off after the Steve fight, had to take care of some stuff, and then after that I got back into training. I think we started training with each other. So it's been like sporadically. But I hadn't, prior to this camp, hadn't trained with him probably for like a year or so. Like whilst he's done this whole UFC thing, I hadn't really trained with him. I only just started training together again now. And then yeah, the Mini T thing is like, yeah, he would I think like a year or two ago, he used to come down every now and then and help me out for like fights and stuff. But yeah, now he's coming down like every Thursday for sparring, which is consistent, which is really good. So yeah, I've trained with these guys for a couple of years, but not like every single week. It's been like more sporadic. But now that I have a fight booked and Mini T's on board, it's more like every week we're doing that, which is, like I said before, I couldn't get a better training partners to actually prepare me for the biggest fight today of my life. So yeah, it's wicked.
Talking about the more day-to-day training at Luistro, there's a gentleman out of there who is also on Dana White's Contender Series, Quillan Salkild. Would you prefer to be fighting on the same week as him?
Yes, I would. That would be amazing. However, I would like it to be on the week that I'm on because I don't want to wait. So, he's obviously on after me. That's no secret. He's on after me because week 1 was announced and week 2 was announced. And he's obviously not on week 1 or 2. So he's clearly after me. I wish that he was on the week I'm on so that we could both do it at the same time. That would be cool. But then also as well, like doing it at the same time, it gives my coach Ramel like a lot of responsibility. It's one thing like coaching one fighter on a night for like the biggest fight possible, but then for 2, it'd be like his attention would be split a little bit, like with the lead up and everything. So it's kind of worked out. What's happening now is kind of like worked out for the better, I guess, doing one and then I'm done. Ramel doesn't have to think about me and then he can focus on Quillan. It's probably the best way to go about it. Quillan has some like good training partners his size in the gym as well, that really help him and are there for him all the time. So yeah, this is probably the best. I mean, it would have been better if we were on the same card potentially, but I think like it's sort of not a big deal that we are split, fighting apart from each other, which is not a big deal.
How does it feel out of the two of you to be the one who's on first?
Oh, um, I haven't really thought about that, but like my personality, I want to just get it done and get it over with and move on. Like win, lose or draw, just get the fight done, boom, done it, then resume with my life, whatever it is, another fight, whatever. So I'm happy that I'm on first because I get to just bang it, get it out of the way. Um, but yeah, I haven't thought of it as like, oh, I'm lucky I get to do it first or anything like that. It's just like more so like I would rather fight. If someone said to me, "Would you rather fight in 10 weeks or 6 weeks?" I'll say six. I prefer to do it sooner than later. So that's just my personality. I like to just get things done when like as soon as possible. So um yeah, I haven't really thought of it like that, but I'm super excited for Quillen's fight also. Um, he's phenomenal and he's like I think he's gonna walk through the guy he's fighting. I just think that he's too skilled. Simple as that. He's just much better fighter than his opponent. And whenever Quillen's fighting, people always ask me because I train with him. They always ask me, "Oh, like, how do you reckon Quillen's gonna go against this guy?" And I was like, to be honest, I haven't even watched that guy. The answer's always the same. I'm like, Quillen will smash him regardless. Like, oh, but he does this really well. It's like, it doesn't matter what he does well. It's not gonna be enough. He might do something really well, but Quillen does everything well. So doesn't matter where the fight goes, he will have the upper hand wherever it goes. So I never have any doubt when he fights. Quillen's very skilled everywhere, has good cardio, can take a shot, has very strong mental fortitude as well, as mentally very strong, doesn't give up, hungry. I don't think anyone can beat him, to be honest. That's my opinion. So
With Quillen being on Contender Series, he has officially vacated his Eternal Lightweight title. That fight will be just, I think, 2 days before your fight, the new lightweight title. At this point, I'm not sure if you've officially vacated the Hex Bantamweight title. If all goes well, you will be. Who do you think should fight for that vacant title?
the Hex title.
Yes.
Well, there was talks of Colby Signes being like a next opponent for me. Uh, Last time I fought on Hex, that's what they were kind of like building up or working towards. So, and then you got like guys like Paul Loga who literally just had a great fight on the weekend, looked phenomenal. I was in there with him, and I can tell you that he's a fucking tough fighter, man. And him and Colby's probably going to be a sick fight. I reckon Hex should make that. Paul deserves another crack at the title, I believe. Like, who hasn't he fought? And Paul looks better every time he fights. Like even like at the age he is now, every time he's fighting, he's literally looking better every time. And he's fought the who's who. And then you got Colby up and coming, who, he has done well in his last fight as well. I think undefeated fighter. It just probably makes sense for both of them to fight each other for that Hex bantamweight belt. So probably them two, I think. I think that's what's going to happen. That makes most sense to me with the current state of like Australian MMA as far as that goes. You look at like who's been active, who's been winning, who's been fighting who, like Colby and Paul probably makes sense to me.
Now, off fight talk a little bit, not to talk to you about this while you're in the middle of a camp. But after your last fight, I saw via your social media, you did a 20,000 calorie food challenge.
Yeah.
Why? Why would you do that?
It was just a joke. I didn't actually go through with it.
Oh, okay. I was like, what is this guy doing?
But I want to do it in the US, that's for sure. After this fight, I'll be doing it in the US probably. Or, I'll probably eat like 10, 15,000 calories, but not as a challenge, just because I decided to,
Just enjoying life.
enjoying life. Like, what do you do? Oh, I just ate 10,000 calories, but like, not to do any sort of challenge. It's just having a good time, you know.
The reason I brought it up is the last time I saw you when you were in Melbourne. I remember talking to Zoe about that. Zoe, you guys went out for dinner, and Zoe's like, "I ate something really nice just right in front of Cody, just to just to upset him."
Yeah. Yeah, that part's always, to be honest though, man, like I always think that. I'm always like, man, I just want to be able to eat this, I want to be able to eat that. And then generally after my fight's done, it's like I don't even care about that anymore. I'm just like kind of thinking about the fight, and it's not until like a couple of days after then I'm like, oh, sick, I want to go eat this, because I always kind of lose my appetite too. Like when I weigh in and then I start like eating for a fight, I always lose my appetite. Maybe it's like the nerves or whatever. I just get held nervous. I don't really feel like eating. But I like force myself to, obviously. And then like after the fight, there's so many emotions and things that have happened, and you feel absolutely destroyed from it all. Um, in a good way, but you feel like completely empty. But it's weird. You kind of feel like too tired to eat. Like it's weird. Like your digestive system kind of gets put on the back burner because you're obviously in this like high stress scenario. It's like, I don't know if you've ever been really stressed for something, your appetite kind of goes. You don't feel like eating if you're like really anxious about something. You know what I mean? It's different if you're like, I don't know, if you're depressed, then maybe you just eat to feel better. But it's not like it's just like more of an anxiety sort of thing. So you feel like not really eating. And I feel like after the fight, it's like that's still lingering a little bit because of everything that's just happened. So I don't really like start eating. I try to eat, but like I lose my appetite a bit, and then a couple of days after, then I start to get a big appetite again, and then I'll, you know, then I'll start punching some cows and punching some numbers. But before then, it's just like, yeah, it happens to me every time. So yeah.
It's always food with us. The last time I spoke to you, we talked about burgers. Now this. I
Yeah.
don't mean to shock you, Cody, by saying this, but I'm not a world class athlete. Shocker. Uh,
Yeah.
what is, if you know, what is like the average calorie count? Like, is 20,000 for you a world class athlete? Is that like heaps? I don't know what is that. Like, what's the number?
Oh, you mean like
Like day to day. Like, what are you burning?
oh, in a day? Yeah, like I eat like 3,500 a day. So 3,500 is like generally someone of my size, if they didn't train, they're probably burning like 2,000 in a day, like with like walking around, and maybe even less sometimes, maybe 2,000 and something. So I eat like I cut weight on eating like 3,500. I actually lose weight on that because of how much training I'm doing. So yeah, 3,500. So you imagine like 10 or 20,000. That's like 10,000 is it's like more than 2 days intake, put it that way, of energy. So that is a lot, like a lot of food. I'd say most people probably eat like daily, like people who don't track and stuff, they probably eat like, I don't know, 2,500, 2,800 a day, some days more, some days less. Um, but yeah, that's like the average person who's not really like tracking or knowing what's healthy or just eating whatever. But yeah, for me, losing weight and training like in a fight camp, like minimum like 3,400, 3,500, I guess, somewhere around there. And I gives me a lot of like enough energy to train. And then also um I actually lose weight on that, which is insane. It's a high amount of calories, but it's probably because outside of my fights, I don't really blow up as well. I don't go so nuts. Like, yes, I will indulge for like 3 or 4 days, but then I'll be like, fuck, okay, rein it in, get on the treadmill or fucking, do some sort of exercise or walk around, hit some weights, like I'll never let myself become like out of shape. I always maintain some sort of shape. So um that's probably like an attribute towards it too, why I'm able to eat so much during camp, because i always hang around I always hang around a weight that's like within reach, that in 8 weeks time I could make my division. I never let myself go like way over, and then I'm like, shit, I've got to lose this much weight, and that's just I've been there before. It's just not a good way to be training, because you end up thinking about like losing the weight too much, and and don't eat this because of the weight. Whereas like if you can just fuel yourself, then you're able to just like eat and then just train hard and not have to worry about like, oh, maybe I can't eat this or that or whatever. So yeah, you don't restrict yourself too much. So yeah, I'm yeah, I've I'm doing that a lot better now as well. Like I'm eating a lot more food and I'm still able to make the weight fine and stuff like that. Yeah.
Cody Haddon, the car has stopped. I will not take too much of your time. Final question from me. Between now and the fight, it's just over a month. What does that month look like for you, and when will you head over to the US?
Um, so yeah, like, 3 and a bit more weeks of like hard training. And then pretty much I'll do my last hardest training here. And then I think that day or the next day we will leave for the US. I think we'll get there like 7 or 6 days before, maybe 6 days before we arrive. And then, yeah, it will take a couple of days to acclimatize. When I get there, I'll do like some light training, which you do on the last week anyway. Nothing too crazy, like shorter sessions, still quite intense, but just a lot shorter. Um, yeah, and then yeah, adjust to the time zone and then get ready to fight. And then yeah, once the fight's done, then just reassess and then yeah, go from whatever's next. I imagine it's gonna be there's nothing that could prepare you for like getting a UFC contract. There's nothing that could that like there's nothing you're never gonna know what that feels like until you actually get it. So yeah, I'm just do the fight and then see what happens and then deal with whatever happens after that. Whatever comes. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So there's like more hard training, and then yeah, cut the weight when I'm over there, make the weight, fight. That's it. Yeah.
Cody Haddon, you fight on Dana White's Contender Series on August 20th. I thank you so much for the time. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Safe travels and best of luck in the fight.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.